The following presentation is an overview of the 88th legislative session and of the San Antonio ISD legislative priorities. The Texas legislature is comprised of two chambers, the House of Representatives with 150 members and the Senate made up of 31 members. The legislature meets every odd-numbered year for 140 days. If at the end of those 140 days the governor deems it necessary, the governor can reconvene the Texas legislature for a special session. The legislature's principal constitutional obligation is to pass a state budget. The following are some key dates. November 14, 2022 marked the first day of pre-filing bills, which means that legislators who won their re-election bid in November could begin filing bills prior to the upcoming session. On that day, over 920 bills and resolutions were filed. January 10, 2023 marked the first day of the 88th legislative session and when members were sworn in. March 10 is the deadline for filing bills, and May 29 is the last day of session, also called sine die. This session will be monitoring the following committees. In the Senate, the Education and Finance committees. In the House, Public Education and Appropriations. As of February 2nd, only the Senate had announced members of its committees. We expect that in the following days, the House of Representatives will announce its committee assignments. The Senate Education Committee is being chaired by Senator Brandon Creighton, and the Vice Chair is Donna Campbell. Senators Jose Menendez and Donna Campbell are members of that committee representing the Bexar County area. The Senate Finance Committee is chaired by Joan Huffman, and the Vice Chair is Chuy Hinojosa. Senators Donna Campbell and Judy Zaffirini are members of the committee representing the Bexar County area. With a nearly $33 billion surplus, all eyes are on both draft budget bills. They are Senate Bill 1 and House Bill 1. On January 30th, the Senate Finance Committee began holding public hearings on Senate Bill 1. It is the Senate's version of the 2024-2025 biennial budget. The portion of the state budget that impacts funding for public education is called Article 3. We will also be tracking House Bill 651 by State Representative Steve Allison of Bexar County. This bill would call for JROTC and LOTC to be designated as career and technology education programs. As the session continues, we will also be working closely with coalitions and other education partners to monitor bills that align with our SAISD legislative priorities. Our SAISD legislative priorities fall under the following categories: finance, school safety, accountability, academics and curriculum, local control, teacher shortage, and technology. In the area of school finance, SAISD supports adequate state funding for public education, including an increase in the basic allotment. SAISD also supports the movement away from using average daily attendance and instead to an enrollment-based funding system. The district also supports continued funding of SB 1882 partnerships and programming, and legislation that would relax or eliminate surcharges for retire rehires. The district also supports legislation that provides full funding for our pre-K programs. SAISD will also monitor legislation that impacts Social Security. This session, we will continue opposing legislation that diverts public tax dollars to private entities through vouchers, tax credits, taxpayer savings, grants, or tuition reimbursement. In the area of school safety, SAISD supports legislation that provides the minimum standard of security, response protocols, and determines the funding needed based on each district's safety needs. The district also supports legislation that secures funding for and access to mental health services for all students, including clinical and psychological services that can be provided during the school day. Under accountability, SAISD supports legislation that maintains a transparent and comprehensive A through F accountability system, measuring campus and district results. It supports legislation that calculates accountability ratings in a way that more accurately reflects district and campus performance. And the district supports legislation that utilizes a supergroup methodology in the closing the gap domain to minimize counting students more than once. Under academics and curriculum, SAISD supports legislation that would expand career and technology education to include JROTC and LOTC as programs of study. The district also opposes legislation that limits a student's ability to show career readiness. In the area of local control, we support local control for school health conditions. We also are supportive of legislation that provides school start date flexibility, districts of innovation, and oppose legislation that prohibits that flexibility. The district opposes legislation that poses a threat to our immigrant students and families. Our district also opposes legislation that poses a threat to our LGBTQIA+ students and families. SAISD supports legislation that incentivizes teacher retention and supports legislation that improves access to highly qualified CTE teachers in career education programs. And especially during this critical teacher shortage, we support efforts to allow retirees to return to the workforce, particularly in specified areas to include classroom teachers, counselor, appraisal staff, campus administrators, without losing their annuity or without surcharges being passed on to the school districts. And in the area of technology, we support legislation that provides affordable, reoccurring technology options for school districts. As the 88th legislative session progresses, we invite you to follow along. By going to the Texas Legislature online website, you may look up bills of interest to you. You may view live public hearings from the comfort of your home office or the convenience of your smartphone. This site is easy to use, and access to the website is free of charge. Go to capitol.texas.gov. The Legislative and External Affairs Department is here to assist you to connect to the policy resources you need. We may provide policy updates to you, your constituents, and to your campus community. Facilitate opportunities for engagement with community groups around SAISD priority items. Help promote SAISD activities in your district, and connect you to other dignitaries and elected officials for ceremonial events or campus concerns. You are welcome to reach out to Ana Alicia Romero, Director of Legislative and External Affairs, and to Guadalupe Rios, Administrative Assistant. Thank you for all you do to strengthen our public schools.